Welcome into Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts with CPA and personal financial specialist, Phil Putney. Now let's get rolling with today's show. Hey everybody, welcome to Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts. Mark and Phil here once again to talk investing, finance, and retirement. And we've got some top money mistakes in retirement planning. So we actually kind of put together a list of 20, but we're not going to drag you through all 20. We're just going to do 10, and we'll see.
Be here all day.
Yeah, and I think we're going to do this over two shows as well. So we really would kind of maybe we'll come back and do the other 10 on a later set, but we'll see how it goes. So we're going to start with 5, I think, today, right, Phil? We're going to take the first 5, and then
work.
Next week we'll do the next 5. So anyway, thanks for being here as always. We appreciate your time. We're going to get into some good stuff because obviously it's a complex world with, finance and retirement. And certainly right now, the world is even goofier than ever, and it seems more complex than ever. I know that every, few years we tend to say that. It seems like if everything's harder and stranger than ever before, but I don't know. It's a little weird out there right now. So we're going to get into some of these things and hopefully help some stuff out. What's going on, my friend? How you doing?
Doing really good.
Yeah.
Summertime is on the way. I think the weather's finally leveling off.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Still got the camper in the shop. Haven't got that out yet. Hopefully I get it out this week. So it's getting close.
Well, yeah, because we're taping this. It'll be Memorial this weekend.
Weekend. Yeah. So fortunately we don't have any camping planned this weekend. No plans.
Okay.
My wife's got a honey-do list project going. So
Gotcha. Well, I've redesigned the studio just a little bit. So I'm standing now to be a little more heart healthy and all that good stuff. So I had to paint the wall and raise the thing up, and I built myself a little shelf right here that you can't see, but it doubles as my podcasting station. I got all my stuff mounted, and then I can also work on my guitars on this little shelf at a standing height. So
nice.
So we're moving right along too. I have a honey-do list too, but it's my own list. So I don't know if that's, I don't guess that's a honey-do list. I guess that's a me-do list.
It's a you-do list, a Mark-do list.
That's right. But, and the money's racking up on it too. It's like, so I'm redesigning a whole bunch of stuff, building an extra room.
Oh, it's crazy.
And it's amazing how stuff gets away from you. Right.
Yep.
And so that might be on our list, how, projects can kind of get out of hand or something. So let's get into it and see what we got on this list here. We're going to start with the basics, though, I think here, Phil, with the first 5, right?
Sure.
Tax implications. Let's just start there because, who knows? I mean, the debt ceiling conversation continues on. I mean, I just saw something the other day that they were saying, well, hopefully they're getting very, I don't know. They're getting very threatening with things. Well, hopefully we won't have to cut Social Security if we don't fix the debt. And it's like, really, is that the first place you should be going?
Exactly.
Right. It's like, come on. That's just inflammatory. It's just a way to get people to call their congressman and say, you better make a deal, or, whatever the case is. But regardless, we know we got tax problems. $30 trillion is out of control.
Right.
We got to raise taxes at some point, and they are raising. But if you're not thinking about, like, they're raising because they're going to revert if they do nothing, right?
Correct.
But if we're not thinking about tax strategy and tax efficiency and planning in retirement, then we're making a mistake.
Absolutely. I mean, taxes has always been one of those things that I think is overlooked in retirement. Most people go on a lot of rules of thumb in retirement planning. Taxes, the rule of thumb there. Right. So I'm going to be in a lower bracket in retirement, right? It's always been the thought. And for some people, maybe, but the reality is for most, especially if you're prepared for retirement, you saved well, you have, enough income and assets accumulated to be able to live a comfortable retirement.
Right.
Chances are you're not going to be in a lower bracket, even if taxes don't end up going up. So understanding the true tax cost of retirement, what that looks like, and planning for it ahead of time, looking at options today to minimize that.
Yeah. And you want to be efficient with it for yourself, right? Because so we can keep as much, but even thinking about, the legacy portion, it's still important to do that there as well. Whether it's on your radar to do legacy or not, get tax efficient, man. Like, get this, start going down this path.
Right. I mean, it's something that you want to, like everything in retirement, don't ignore it. Don't make general assumptions. Run the math ahead of time to see what does it really look like.
Yeah.
And that's what we help all our clients do is, run that, what we call our base scenario first. Hey, if we do nothing, just let things happen. Do you have enough? Does it work? And what does the tax ramification look like overall? If taxes don't go up other than what's on the books today, the expiration of the 2018 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. If that expires, taxes go up in 2026 as they're supposed to. What does it look like? So this is the do nothing scenario. In the biggest risk there is a lot of time for a surviving spouse.
Yeah.
When you get into that whole widows penalty concept of going from married filing joint to single and everything that happens in that scenario. So,
well, we cover, unfortunately, like your world consists of 6 or 7 really big topics, right?
Right.
And so we talk about them just about every week in some form or fashion. We try to find different ways to highlight stuff and bring them to folks so that hopefully at some point, right, because you know how humans are, we're all the same way. Sometimes we have to hear things 30 times before we go, I should probably do something about that.
Yeah.
Right? And certainly taxes is one of those. And Social Security is on the list, of course, right, as always.
Right.
And that's another big top, I guess 10 if we're doing 10 over 2 shows, money mistake, because you could be talking about a couple of $100,000. I think that's the part that people maybe get blown away by when if they don't come in and sit down with someone like yourself, right? They think, well, I'll just turn it on early because the government owes me and it's going to run out and all this stuff.
I'd rather spend their money than my money.
Every excuse that we've heard. And you don't realize that, and maybe that's the right decision, but you don't realize that you could be costing yourself like a couple $100,000.
Right. Again, it comes down to understanding the math and running the numbers. When I'm working with clients, I always tell them, look, as we're going through this planning process, my goal is to provide you the facts, right? The information.
Right.
So you, as you're looking at these various decisions, know both sides of the equation, right? If I do it this way, this is what it looks like. If I do it this way, this is what it looks like. Versus, well, I've got a buddy or everyone I know, they're saying file early because it's going broke or whatever it is, right? They're making decisions based on hearsay.
Yeah, the guy on YouTube with 100,000 views says to take it, so I better do it.
That's right. I found this new TikTok thing, and they keep telling me on there that it's like, come on, seriously, where are you getting your financial education?
And I say that totally tongue in cheek, realizing that we're on YouTube,
right? Exactly.
But you are also in the trenches, right? Like everything now in the modern world, these things are a form of hopefully information and education for clients and potential clients. And it's also a marketing tool. Let's be honest, right? It is what it is. But, you're in the trenches every day where sometimes some of these people that are making these statements and comments, they're not even a licensed professional, and it's like, that's a big difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've got to understand where the person's coming from. I always say whenever you're looking at somebody or some place for information, understand what's the purpose of them doing it, right? The news, same thing. You think that the news is to give you the news. No, the news is to sell advertising.
Yeah.
That's the main source. That's what they do, right? You're the means of getting viewership so that the advertising makes money. So, they have to be intriguing to you so they get the eyes to sell the ads.
Yeah. My brother,
we don't sell ads here. So.
Right. There you go. My brother is a pretty knowledgeable car guy, but I'm not having him, change my brakes in the master brake cylinder and all that kind of stuff because it's not his job or his career or profession. And I know there's a lot of at-home mechanics. I'm not knocking at home mechanics, but I'm not trusting my specific life and my wife's life to my brother doing my brakes, right?
Right.
Even though I know that, I trust him to help me do some minor things, but not a brake overhaul. It's the same kind of thing, right? So just be careful of where you're getting your information from, because when it comes to Social Security, starting too early could be a mistake.
Yeah, run the math and understand pros and cons. And there's a lot of options when it comes to Social Security, especially for a married couple, and how you combine those benefits.
Yeah.
Just because one of you files early doesn't mean both should or have to.
Yeah, maybe the strategy is one goes early, one goes late.
Right. And I see with Social Security, a lot of times people get confused with the concept of quote unquote retirement and filing for Social Security. Those are two separate, somewhat unrelated decisions, right? You can retire and not file for Social Security.
Yeah.
So, they don't have to be at the same time. It all comes down to a plan.
Yep.
Run the numbers, have a plan for yourself, for your specific scenario, know the pros and cons, make an informed decision so that as you're looking at these options, you can say, oh, I've looked at that. Your buddy says, oh, I'm filing early. why are you waiting till
Great.
70? You can say, hey, I've run the numbers, and for me, it just makes sense.
Yeah, you do you. I'm waiting. Yeah,
That's
so okay. So let's do number 3 here. So focusing
right.
on rates of return versus income streams. Now, this was certainly a problem 2 years ago when the market was still screaming meanie
Yes.
for 12 years, right? It's easy to get sucked into that rates of return. And we've talked about this before, but really maybe focus on what you need to drive the plan, which helps you as far as the rates of return. And then maybe you don't have to take as much risk, especially in volatile times, right?
Right.
And then have that income streams, are those multiple, hopefully, income streams, because that's what you need.
Yeah, exactly. You can't have just one. It should have multiple. But again, it comes down to mindset, and this is understandable, right? Same thing with taxes. It's during your working career, it's always been saving taxes. You look at it as today. I'm lowering my tax bracket today. Oh, I'm on a higher bracket today. I'm going to save the lower bracket today. Same concept happens with, saving for retirement, the earnings. You're always looking at growing that balance. I've got time. I want to grow it as much as I can. Again, with comfort level, what you're, comfortable with in that volatility, but the focus is on growth, which when you get to retirement, you can't ignore growth. Hopefully you've got 20 to 30 years in retirement. So you have to have some growth potential, but the focus now needs to shift from, I'm not accumulating and growing that bucket. It's about how do I take what I've accumulated, now make it income to me in the most efficient, both from a volatility standpoint and a tax standpoint.
Yeah.
So again, it's just a mind shift and understanding what is it there for, which often I see this is a struggle for clients because you get used to saving, right?
Oh yeah.
What do you mean? I got to spend it? I don't want to spend it. Well, it's what you saved it for.
Right. You got here, enjoy it, right? But sometimes it is a hard animal to sometimes, get people's mind to flip over on. And I guess really, Phil, my next one, actually, we could have probably put these two together, but when we were talking about rates of return and it's just being too aggressive or too conservative. And it happens with these volatile times, right? So everybody wanted to be really aggressive, again, for the last 10 years, right? Prior 10 years, 12 years. But now everybody's like, let me get super conservative, and you can't walk. I don't think you should be walking in either or. It's like our political landscape anymore. It's like everything has got to be hard left or hard right.
All these extremes.
What
on both
happened
sides,
to finding like some middle ground, right?
Yep. Yes. I mean, it's, again, one of those concepts of, I'm in retirement now, I've got to be more conservative. I can't take risks with my money because this is all I have.
It's the tried and true. Yeah.
Absolutely understand that. You don't have 10 more years of work. If you have everything in a 2008 type of scenario and you lose half of it, you don't have 10 years to come back.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. That's perfectly understandable. But again, you have that growth side you have to have. You've got 20, 30 years in retirement. So it has to be a balance. You have to have some money, and we've talked about this a lot, but our approach is bucketizing money.
Mm-hmm.
There should be some that is more conservative so that as you're spending that income stream, that is going to have a different investment strategy because you don't want to have the volatility and lose money in that bucket as you're spending, but you have to have some of it set up for long-term growth that naturally could have some more volatility because now you have time.
Yeah.
So again, it's a mind shift, right? You have to not, like in retirement, think of all the money as one big bucket, and say, okay, well, while I'm saving for retirement, it's all aggressive. Now that I'm retired, it's all conservative.
And I can see that being a challenge whenever when we're putting it into like just maybe a 401 or something. We're like, well, no, it's in one bucket, right?
Right. I mean, that's, again, it's understandable because it's perspective.
Yeah.
That's your perspective. You're coming out of 20, 30 years of work.
Yeah.
That's how you viewed it every day. You look at a 401, hopefully not every day, but you're looking at your 401k as you should on a regular basis, not daily because it's going to drive you nuts, but watching what's going on and watching that grow.
Yeah.
Maybe you had a number in mind that I want to hit, this million, two, whatever it is, your number, that you're kind of focusing on and the growth side of it. Now you've got to shift, but that doesn't mean take everything conservative either.
Well, and that's why, even using that for just a single 401k analogy, maybe it's not the best idea just to have, the one thing, right? We're kind of taught, hey, go to work, get the job, pump into 401k, but there's so many other investment vehicles out there that can certainly help with the bucketizing as well, right? So, and help with the tax bucketizing.
Yeah, especially as we talked about the income streams. I mean, there's several options, and how do you now take those assets you have and convert them into generating income streams?
Yeah, for sure.
And really that's one of the mindset shifts as you get to retirement is it's not just this big bucket of money I've been accumulating. How do I now shift that into this income stream? Looking at risk from your standpoint, you still have to understand what your comfort level is, because you never want to, even if it's in a later bucket, go into something more aggressive than what you're going to be comfortable with, because worst decision you can make is do that. And then all of a sudden we get into a 2022, 2020, 2008 scenario, and you're at the bottom saying, okay, I can't do this. Get me out.
Yep, exactly.
That's the wrong decision to make. So you need to understand your personality up front, your comfort up front, and adjust accordingly. That's where an advisor can help.
For sure.
And walk you through that. So,
and that's a great place to kind of finish off with our fifth point here. That's where a professional, an advisor, can help versus, your family or your friends or your buddy at the golf course or, whatever the case is. They all probably mean super well. And maybe some of the moves they made worked for them. It doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Absolutely. And it was funny. I was just reading, they came out with the 2023 Retirement Confidence Survey. They do this survey every year, like 2,500 households, some retirees, some workers, to get a good blend. But the number one source of financial information at 40% was friends and family. 40%.
Wow.
Now granted, second was 34% was an advisor, professional advisor. And then, and I don't know how they came up with, because these percentages didn't add up, but then they had another 36%, basically do it yourself, the internet, doing your research online. But I mean, just looking at those top three, so you've got somebody trained that this is their career, what they focus on. This is, they hopefully, the advisor you're working with knows if it's a retirement focused advisor, all the ins and outs of that strategy.
Right.
You've got friends and family that have no idea. They're in the same bucket or boat with you, right? This is their first time, hopefully only time retiring.
They're probably doing the internet thing too.
Yeah, and exactly. Where are they getting their information? Well, that's the internet, and the internet is, who knows what's
it's Wild West. Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. So you've got to really understand where you're getting your information.
Yeah.
And it's what you want to your point of your breaks, is that you want to put your retirement security in that, right? Oh, well, my buddy said he's doing great. Well, okay, your buddy got a pension. Both of them have high Social Security benefits.
Right.
They don't need the assets that they've accumulated. They really don't need it. That's fun money.
Yeah, I mean, that could be right. That could be the trigger right there, right? That could be certainly the trigger right there. It's like, oh, well, he's got a pension and you don't. That's a huge difference. Right.
Yeah, you can't. Friends and family, they're great to talk to about sports, about fun stuff, whatever your hobbies are. Finances, maybe to some extent, hey, and not knocking. There are some people that are very good at this, but you have to understand their situation, which they're probably not going to share with you. You don't know in your situation. And that's where an advisor comes in, is because that is our first stepping stone, so to speak, is understanding that, right? As a fiduciary, I have to understand, what is your scenario?
Yep.
The advice I give you is going to be totally different probably than another client, because their scenario is a little different. So it's a lot of similarities, but you've got a different situation than they do.
Yeah. And I'll go back to the car analogy, and maybe I've used this before, I don't know, but with you saying the word fiduciary, we'll finish with this. You have to do the right thing for the person up front. And you think that that's something that should be applied to every business, everywhere, all the time, right? But there's also the suitable factor in the financial word. Well, it's technically suitable, so I recommended it. Yes. And again, if you're thinking about having your car serviced, you don't want someone to say, I fixed the tire. It should be suitable to get you there, right? And it's like,
That's right.
no, I want
Like
to
a
make
60,
sure that,
70%
yeah,
chance it's going to work. So
yeah, I want to make sure that it absolutely works to get me there. So it's a funny little rule. You'd think we'd have that really for just a business in general, but hey, money makes people do funny things, and that's why we do the conversations that we do. That's why we do the show, and that's why Phil, helps people. Been helping people for many, many, many years. So if you got some questions, you need some help when it comes to making or not making big money mistakes in retirement, make sure you reach out to a qualified professional like Phil. You can find him online at philstaxhacks.com or call him at 248-888-7530. Again, 248-888-7530. Numbers on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, but if you're listening, there you go. And again, philstaxhacks.com. All right, my friend, I'll let you get out of here. We'll do the next 5 next time. Thanks for hanging out.
sounds good.
All right, we'll see you later right here on Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts.
Investment advisory services offered through AFS Wealth Management. The content of this program is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. Investments and or investment strategies involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment strategy will achieve its objectives.